This is Digital Anarchist at DevOps World, Jenkins World, San Francisco, 2019.
Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com. We're live on the digitalanarchist.live streaming site. Hope you're enjoying this, trying to give you a little flavor of what's happening here at the Moscone Center. As we're here at from DevOps.com, but we're here at DevOps World, Jenkins World. Our next guest is Paul Bruce of Neotys. Paul, welcome, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for having you here. So, Paul, I don't know if our audience, A, is familiar with Neotys, and then B, with you. So let's start with the company. A little background.
So Neotys is squarely focused in the performance engineering space. We deliver a platform that helps people fit this notion of being able to regularly check and make sure that things are working at scale as expected throughout the pipeline, throughout the entire life cycle, wherever that starts and ends for you. And quite frankly, cleaning the clock of monolithic tools that are used to dealing with this as if it's a silo, an afterthought, right? We basically clean up all day long. I regularly find myself at a Fortune 100 helping them transition off of certain dinosauric products, and particularly with relation to solving more than just their performance problems. These organizations are going through, well, everybody is going through right now, how do we fit to a new model of thinking about the resources we have before, or we need before we have them. So an example of that might be, hey, Kubernetes. We want to automatically describe these things. We want to do it in a way that's reliable and consistent and versioned and traceable, and that's great and all, but you still have performance problems there. So on a good day, let's say you're just getting through that strategy at scale. You're actually figuring out how to roll out Kubernetes to your larger organization. Maybe you're using a cloud provider to do that. You still have the fundamental question, yes, but are we making good architectural decisions along the way?
So, one of the things, I don't mean to cross my arms, I know it's a negative thing, but one of the things I think we suffer from in technology is this shiny trinket syndrome, right?
Yeah.
So Kubernetes is today's shiny trinket. Everybody wants to move to Kubernetes. We want to, look, Kubernetes is being adopted faster than hypervisors were even,
it's
right?
also leaking major security flaws faster than
left and right.
it can handle too.
Hypervisors did too back in the day. I was in security then, believe me. But that being said, it's something about you said. Okay, so I'm going to orchestrate and move to a containerized environment using Kubernetes. Great. But I really should I be moving from a monolithic to not a microservices?
Lean.
Not only lean, I forgot the word. Microservices? No, well, to a mesh on top of the Kubernetes.
Yeah, sure.
But to microservices, right?
Yep.
And the multi-threaded running these versus a monolithic architecture, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm just going to still try to keep that monolithic and not move, into microservices, then Kubernetes isn't going to do me.
Well, it's packaging and orchestration around this notion of doing smaller, more discrete changes. Right. People who've actually moved through their microservices journey oftentimes find that they've just created themselves a big monolith of stuff that's very hard to understand the dependencies
There's
between.
that too.
On the other hand, I think when I mean monolith, I mean something that cannot be moved without moving the entire thing. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work
Not
anymore.
in today's world.
Whether you're talking about small unicorns that sneeze rainbows and stuff, or whether you're talking about large enterprises. I was just talking with somebody from FedEx, where they were saying they are trying to move off of mainframe technology. They've been working on it for a while, and I got to be honest, a significant portion of the world still runs
and will continue to run
on old iron.
Yeah.
But who cares about all that because we've got Kubernetes, because we can package things up. There's a lot of technology involved in getting, at the end of the day, getting somebody to either do something you want them to do, more money, more revenue, more reliability, But at the end of the day, it's not just asking the question, yeah, but will it work when we go to production? Or is it working in production? Or what choices are we making that are screwing us, knowably screwing us ahead of time, right? Architectural choices on heavy protocol, and that doesn't just get solved by using gRPC, I gotta be honest, right? It matters, these architectural boundaries can be found to be problematic before you even go halfway through your whatever journey, right? In terms of implementation. And one of the things that Neotys does, going back to Neotys, they're a 10-year-old company. They've been focused on performance for their entire inception. Their flagship product primarily is about putting pressure on systems, doing that in a way that takes minutes to write a script over hours or days sometimes, to be able to provide fast feedback to both development, operations teams, also people like product owners, right? Yeah. Being able to show a graph of how your performance is going to cause tech debt. Like, it's this unknown stuff. At the booth, I had the marketing people buy me a wheel, one of those spinning wheels.
Yeah.
It's kind of kitschy, but I knew that there are a number of myths, right? And I love this show called Good Mythical Morning. And they have this thing called Wheel of Mythicality. It's all these fake things. And having been in the performance space for so long and seeing and having so many friends in the operations tell about just complete garbage dumpster fires that are caused because we're not keeping track of what we're doing. We're not measuring to make sure that we're on the right track, like we say we are, like we say we're supposed to, in agile, iterative DevOps, sprints, those kind of things. At the end of the day, if you're not measuring that stuff, right, you don't know the tech debt that you're incurring. And so this kind of carnival wheel, I just have people basically spin the carnival wheel. It's got things like, here's one myth that should be obvious. Screw it, ship it. Or...
so what if it's not secure?
Yeah, so what if it's not secure?
Well, we didn't finish
the
our
cloud will
security
save
testing.
us.
No
right?
one says I'm shipping it secure. I just didn't have time to finish it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I came up with all these myths that aren't just confabulations. These are things that people actually say. Like, for instance, yeah, but open source is free.
Free as in beer.
I love open source. I also see a lot of people struggling because they think they can do it all by themselves. So what Neotys does is provide a platform that allows you to run performance testing alongside all the other tools in your landscape. Like, for instance, we're really good friends with the Dynatrace team because being able to measure the impact at a deep transaction tracing level. Same thing with New Relic, App Dynamics, Datadog, right?
Sure.
There's all a certain amount of this notion of observability. But if you don't want to make your users the people who are experiencing the failure, if you're in banking, financial sector, insurance, healthcare, public sector, if you're in e-commerce, right? Some people might have the luxury of just saying, screw it, ship it. In small, tiny little amounts, and maybe measure those. Some people don't. And that's what we do. We really help to make sure that...
Far too many people don't. Far too many people don't.
Yeah.
And haven't for a long time, but it didn't stop them from doing it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And look, I had this fight in companies I founded 20 years ago. It's the same fight, right? The engine, the developers, and this is before DevOps and stuff, right? Well, we got to get this release. We promised this release on the end of the second quarter.
Sure.
And hella high water, they released it at the end of the second quarter.
It's the iron triangle. It's good, fast, or cheap.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Exactly. But the business doesn't recognize that. And if there's one thing that I've learned from working with performance engineering at large organizations, working to help build a standard for IEEE that's around the DevOps principles and practices, being deeply involved, being an organizer of my community for all the the young startup to mid-range. We're talking like Bose level,
I understand.
right? Like not small in any way.
No,
established,
mid-enterprise isn't bad.
but not massive, not epically massive. Just working with a whole bunch of people. What I'm surprised is that constantly, if you were to ask a business person, what is your risk mitigation strategy, or what's your organizational risk policy? They'd be able to find something on a wiki or in an email or some deck that some CIO or CSO
Copied from somewhere.
that somewhere they know about that, right? Because they're held accountable to those risks. But then you ask somebody in IT, how does this directly align? How does the work you're doing right now directly align with an organizational risk strategy?
You know what? So what you
Crickets.
are describing is exactly why historically security was not part of the IT team.
Yeah.
It was assigned to the risk,
Yep.
which came under CFO or
Yep.
something, right? Not under CIO. And that cleavage of taking security, put it with risk, because they're going to help with that, also led to a culture of security being bolted on after the fact.
Yeah, or being separate, right?
And being other, right?
That, I think, is one of the fundamental things that DevOps started basically saying, this is the operations that works with development, and vice versa. It's not developers, there's not just one way to view it. The original was developers and operations. You can also look and ask your sales team and go, what do you need? And they'll probably go, we need a sales ops person. What is this sales ops, right? What is this new ops stuff?
I'm actually looking for a sales ops person right now at DevOps.com.
The reason I bring that in is because at the same time this is about developers and operations people, it's about the business as well.
It's about the organization.
They are supported, they get their checks paid by people, they get legal agreements signed off on by legal, they get their products sold
It's called
by...
DevBizOps, my friend, right? It's the whole business
Right.
is running in there.
But
hey man, we're way over time though.
Yeah.
I got it. We'll continue this conversation, but I
Totally.
got people waiting.
Totally.
I apologize.
No problem. Alan,
Paul, a pleasure
nice to meet
meeting you.
Yeah.
So I mispronounced it. It's Neotys,
Neotys.
not
Yep.
Neotys. Neotys.
Either way.
All right,
We'll
Paul
catch
Bruce,
you.
Neotys.
Thank you.
We're live here at DevOps World in Moscone Center. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com. Stay tuned. We'll have another guest coming up in just a few moments.